Because they right there.
Brittany? I can call on Brittany from Representative Troop 336 for the invocation, please.
Dear Heavenly Father, we pray that you'll be with all these folks from the town of Wilkesboro. Give them guidance to make the right decisions for our community. And we pray that you'll bless everyone who's here. And we ask all these things in Jesus' name. And everybody says, amen.
We're ready to go.
Pledge, attendance, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Brittany? I'd like to recognize these scouts. One thing is they're resilient. And this is another talking to. And we were supposed to have two other people, and so they managed to do this all by themselves. But in recognition, we want to present both of you with the Royal Wilkesboro Honor Guard patch. So thank you so much. So take care. So, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
There are just a few.
Yes, sir.
So there is the item K, so budget amendment number 7, general fund budget amendment number 8, water fund budget amendment number 3, general fund budget amendment number 9, and water fund budget amendment number 7. There's also item L for the discussion of an installation of stop signs near Chestnut and Vance Street.
Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda, approve the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to accept the agenda as noted.
Commissioner Parsons, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner. That's, do we have any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any awards and recognition, Chief, we don't have anything. Thank you. No public comment, Mr. Blanton?
No, sir, not the one.
Thank you. So routine business, we have our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to accept our consent agenda, or is there anything that needs to be taken out? If not, do I have a motion to accept? Thank you, Commissioner Palmer. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Nelson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Town manager's report.
Yes, sir, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Regarding the Black Cat Station, which was identified as surplus property, we did obtain an appraisal on the property, and it's in the hands currently of the Wilkesboro Economic Development Corporation to define interest in the properties. And so there has been some contact made with some of the interested prospects. They created a spec sheet, which you all have in the packet. And this includes the 4 parcels, and they have identified a price of $290,000 as an asking price for the properties. And again, this will be marketed as an economic development related project. Hopefully, we'll have some offers or some information to you in August. We'll be advertising and soliciting interest.
Just a curiosity question.
Yes, sir.
I know I've been in there and it's been dark and we've looked around, but in the future, there's still some training things that were left there.
Yes, sir.
And that'll probably be disposed of every time. So it's just probably not worth anything, but just questions.
It's there available. So
Okay. Ms. Brooks, you have a report?
Good evening, board. I wanted to give you all an update on the UDO. As you know, we have been, Robin Tatum, our land use attorney, she has been reviewing the document, and the goal is to be able to get a draft by the end of May. We have been in contact with her, Director Camperman and I, and we're working towards getting that draft back from her. But currently, Director Camperman and I are reviewing some questions she had. She has some preliminary questions that we needed to go through, mostly in the definition section, just trying to do some cleanup before she's able to submit us that whole draft. So I just wanna let you all know that it's in the works, and still the deadline by the end of this calendar year. So hopefully by January 1st, 2027, it should be completed. I think we're still on schedule to hit that deadline. So, and by that we mean like adopted and already brought to you. So you should be seeing the full draft in the next few months.
I would like to point out that Mr. Campbell and I have had discussions about this fairly unique workforce housing effort through the federal government and HUD. And we've also had some interest from developers working in the 189 to 230 range. What was that? So this is a thing that could benefit our community. And so as part of the UDO, I know Joseph and I wanted to discuss this together. So I have notes from our course I took on this, that's my knowledge. But there's some interesting things that possibly could be involved in updating our UDO that
Okay.
would bring us up into the future to present times. So
And there will definitely be time for that feedback. Right now, we're still in that preliminary phase, but it's exciting, we're making progress, so.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I have a couple of other items to
Yes, sir.
mention. The joint water intake, we did receive, obtain the temporary construction easements from all the property owners. The contracts have been let, materials are moving in, and work's getting started. So contract A for the joint intake is a 630-day project, as we found. And then the contract B is 390 days. So the things are progressing, so we're starting to move there. The North Wilkesboro Fire Department project, we do have the amended contract in place. Subcontractors, the contracts are being let with them. Things are starting to progress there. We did have a slight hold up with Duke Energy on some power line and easement, but we're working through that. But again, things are progressing there. Lastly, I'll mention, I made reference to the possibility for an ordinance that would involve the operation of golf carts in some areas of the town. And this is very preliminary, haven't drafted an ordinance yet. I have talked with adjoining Elton, who has an ordinance in place. And there's several other towns and locations around us who have that. So we started to draft an ordinance there that will be offered for your consideration.
And if you don't mind, I'll point out that looks like the storm drains are getting ready to go in on the fire department. Is there anything that you want to report?
No, well, we got, the site's pretty much level now, I mean, that's most all the grading finished. So next would be the plumbing and electrical going in, underground stuff will be going in next, and the builders for the new steel building.
Thank you, Tom. Yes, sir.
Any old business? I'm sorry. Do you have any emerging issues from the board? Okay. Old business? Yes, sir. So, I'm so proud of the support from the board and from the town, the fire department, the police department. I'm especially proud of Commissioner Palmer and Epson. Tell us all how many phone calls you made to churches, please. I'm so particular.
105.
105. Wow. She's doing that to get the bells to ring all at one time. I find that a lot of churches don't have bells. We have a full day planned. The Charters of Freedom, well, I'm sorry, let me back up. At 11 o'clock, we're gonna show the Washington, what's the name of that?
American Miracles.
American Miracle, and I've heard everybody say it's wonderful. You can get it on Apple TV or at the Liberty Theater for free at 11 o'clock on 4th of July. We're having, at 2 o'clock, the Charters of Freedom Memorial, and if you haven't been by the Wilkesboro Town Hall, it's fabulous. It's, the documents are going in now. It's the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and the Civil Rights Act. We're gonna have a dedication there at 2 p.m. on the 4th, and a lot of us are all involved in that. When we're leaving Bay. At 4 o'clock, we're going to have a American 250 pageant at the museum, the old courthouse, and we're going to have George Washington proclaiming the Declaration of Independence. And the parade will start there soon after, and Fred Costello and his group have put together a fabulous parade full of people and hopefully horses. That was the number one thing that people asked for. And we're going to have horses at the end of the parade. That's going to go from Wilkesboro to North Wilkesboro, and then we're having the meltdown at the farmer's market at 5 o'clock. We're going to have historical speakers throughout the afternoon. We're going to have presentations for children and games and things for them to play. We're going to have ice cream and hot dogs and how many? 6 food trucks?
8.
8 food trucks. So plenty to eat there. A lot of good stuff going on. We're going to make an announcement about the North Wilkesboro train station there and the who owns it, and we own it, and we want to make that public. And we're going to have a speaker there as well. And we're going to follow that up with the Wilkes Symphony, as I'm calling it now, because I've got the pulpit and I'm going to call it the Wilkes Symphony. I'm doing that because I'm hoping that we can continue this. We have 20-some people in our symphony orchestra, and they're going to play a full repertoire of patriotic hymns and veterans memorials and the 1812 overture and all that. And we have 20-some people in the choir that are going to sing along with it. And they're going to play that about 10:30 in the evening. So I'll leave anything out. You're good. So thank you, Andrew. Still proud. And this man has been cutting things and gathering things and taking photographs to put in. Tell them about your time capsule.
So I'm doing, with the group and some people, we're doing a time capsule that'll be open in 50 years. And I took a picture of every building in downtown North Wilkesboro, every restaurant in North Wilkesboro, went in and got their menus, either got to go menus or pictures of the menus, every church in town, all the town properties and parks, all the gas stations, because I didn't know if they'd be here in 50 years, all the grocery stores, retail stores, and other important buildings like the hospital and different things. And we're just doing like traditional photos that are 4x6, and we're putting them in archival sleeves so they don't stick together. So that'll have a lot of photos documented. I've got patches from the police department, fire department, and some things like that. I went to the Speedway and took a bunch of pictures, and they donated some stuff for the time capsule. I've got business cards from a lot of businesses in town, all sorts of brochures from the Chamber of Commerce, different posters and things that are promoting stuff this year. And gonna try to get some letters from the board and a picture of the board. We're doing a thing at the 4th of July where kids can sign a constitution, and it'll go in there, large entry out as a constitution with a feather pen. And we made these cards where a kid can say, this is my name, this is how old I am, this is how old I'll be in 50 years, what I want to be when I grow up. We're going to put that in there. And I think there's a few other things. Like for fun, I put a pack of baseball cards and basketball cards and just some other things. And Rainstorm at Funeral Home is donating these 2 plastic vault things that like an urn goes in that are airtight, and they're donating a big vault that those go in, and that's going to be the time capsule. And probably we're going to take all the documents and everything and seal it in vacuum sealer packs so that we'll hopefully do well in the next 50 years. And we have like a granite stone on top with the town seal and when it should be open. And we're going to have an event on Friday, October 9th, and we're not exactly sure where it's going to be yet because we're still trying to decide where to bury it. We're thinking about it in the fire department because we think it'd be the safest place because it's such a new building, but we don't know if it'll quite be ready, and we've got some other locations. But it's been way more work than I thought it would be when I said I'll do this. But it's pretty cool, and there's been a lot of nice people.
And you want Michael and I to dig it up in 50 years?
I still plan to be working every night.
Hardest work in town.
And I want to say, Sandra had the idea. We've been meeting. We have a group of people that meets every other Wednesday, basically since January, to come up with ideas for America 250. We've had the Daughters of the American Revolution. We've had people from the library, the Genealogical Society, Fred from the Rotary Club that's putting on the parade, and just all this stuff where people came together, and it's been really fun. We've made good friends with each other. But I think a cool thing is Sandra had a couple ideas. One was to paint the fire hydrants, and they're painted now. They're probably in the art gallery, so that's really cool. And she had an idea to have all the churches ring their bells together at the same time on July 4th, and so they're going to ring the bells at 4 o'clock when the parade starts. And she did literally call over 100 people trying to get it together, and so far she's had a handful of people that'll say they'll do it. So if your church has a bell and you would like to try to get them to participate, talk to Sandra.
Or a loudspeaker.
Yeah.
Play them.
That's an idea. All right, new business, Mr. Plankton, you have a public hearing
Yes,
request?
you don't mind to go ahead and enter us into the public hearing
Oh.
for item G. This is for an annexation on
Yes.
Jones Dancy Street. This is the 3rd time the board has heard this item, so I will be pretty brief on getting this back around clearly. We'll start with the map on the next page. So this is the parcel on Jones Dancy Street. The Board of Commissioners in the last couple months agreed to vote to rezone this property. The applicant is here tonight if you have any questions for them, but they would like to build a single-family dwelling on this property, and they would like to connect to town utilities, so they have requested an annexation. They have met all the requirements of the town to be annexed into town limits, and this is a contiguous annexation. It is roughly 3/4 of a mile from IGA off of Highway, I think that's off of 150.
It's
18 north.
Yes, you're correct.
It's in behind the CQ. It's sort of in behind the CQ building.
Would you like to speak on your behalf for that annexation?
No, you said he doesn't.
Does anybody else have any comment? If not, we'll close the public hearing, and I will ask for a motion to either approve or not approve this action.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the annexation. Do I need to list the parcel number, Dylan?
If you can just approve the ordinance 26-21.
Okay, I approve make a motion to approve ordinance 26-21 for annexation of the property stated in the agenda.
Do I have a second? Any discussion?
Welcome to North Wilkesboro.
Yes, welcome to North Wilkesboro. Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Welcome
Thank
to
you.
town. So, the building improvement grant program, Taylorberry.
Good evening, Commissioners. In your agenda packet, you have the Downtown North Wilkesboro Building Improvement Grant Program before you for consideration tonight. This was developed to encourage private investment in downtown by providing financial assistance in the form of a grant for projects that would improve properties, activate vacant spaces, and contribute to the overall economic vitality of downtown. This is something I've been working on for a while, and I've been gauging the need in our community, and I've included that in my departmental report for over a year now. So this is the guidelines and the application and the draft of the rubric that are included in your packet. So the guidelines go through the purpose, what the program goals are, eligibility criteria, eligible costs, which would include interior improvements like flooring installation, fire suppression systems, plumbing, electrical, kitchen installation or build out, roof replacement, HVAC upgrades, and restroom facilities, to name a few. We list out ineligible costs, and identify that the grant award amount would be up to $12,500. It's a reimbursement grant of 60% of the total project cost up to that amount. And this would be reimbursed after the project is completed. We included a little blip about historic tax credits so that property owners are aware of that incentive, and outlined what the application process is, which would be, applications would be accepted on a rolling basis starting July 1st, and it would run similar to how the facade grant program currently operates. So applicants would submit their application and all the required documentation to the Downtown North Wilkesboro Partnership Board. We would review, and we would consult with appropriate staff for the projects. And then this particular grant would have a rubric, which is included. The facade grant doesn't have a rubric. There's just certain criteria that an applicant needs to meet. And then once the partnership board approves the grant application, applicants will be required to sign a grant agreement outlining the terms and conditions. Once the project is completed, they would submit paid receipts or clear checks, and we would reimburse them for the eligible costs. I included the application for you, and then the scoring rubric, which has, it's on a 100-point scale, and applicants have to have at least 60 points to be considered. And it has categories that include economic impact, historic preservation, housing creation, property activation, private investment leverage, public safety, and then overall community benefit. So if adopted tonight, the program would become effective July 1st, allowing us to begin accepting applications and support projects in this upcoming fiscal year. Are there any questions?
Couple questions. So
Sure.
there will not be any public hearing involved in this process? Okay. And so we will be approving this tonight. Moving
Sorry?
forward. You're hoping for approval or
Yes.
disapproval? Okay.
And if there's any feedback or changes that need to be made, then
Well-
I could come back for approval.
Sure. My question would be, and I will be totally transparent with this, is I own two buildings, I think, that fall into this, and we've had one application for the other program that was done years ago. And, so I know my wife is certainly interested in taking part in this, and I just want to be upfront and transparent about that. And of course, Mr. Palmer, I think, has a bill, and maybe others, so, just want to make the public aware that that's going on, and would fall into the same guidelines and rubric, that's a test of qualifications, correct? Anybody?
I've got a few questions more, just so, it'll kind of highlight some things for people to understand. One clarification, I don't own any buildings in downtown, my dad does, not me personally.
Okay, sorry.
So, what's the amount and is there a match?
It's a 60% reimbursement up to $12,500.
Yeah, that's good. And, some examples of some things, I know I asked you about it, one big thing that I think is important is it'll include roofs.
Yes.
A lot of our buildings have leaking problems and things. Other communities you looked at are doing these.
Yes, I looked through several other community, grant applications and packets, and they cover similar, improvements to properties. Some communities have a specific roof grant, but most of them have just a general building improvement grant.
A building that needs a roof really bad.
Does some of these things, would it apply to like upstairs residential?
Yes,
How about like if a building, somebody wanted to convert it into a restaurant, would it help with things like installing a hood?
yes.
I think that's it. Well, I appreciate it. I think this is great, and I hope the board will support it, because we've got a lot of buildings downtown that need some attention. This might motivate some people to do stuff, so thank you for your work.
Thank you. Rob?
Well,
Yes.
you know, downtown is getting where that if I'm a business owner upstairs, I've made an apartment above the business to rent out to somebody. Can this grant be used for putting a fire alarm system in the building to notify the people upstairs that the building alarm's burning?
Yes.
I mean, that would be a good grant to put out there, because I mean, right now, we don't know, we're still having a hard time finding apartments. We find people living in places all the time that we didn't know that was there. So maybe some way to notify them to get them out of that building quick enough, because these old buildings downtown, they burn quick when they start burning. That would be a big plus that we ought to really push for the business owners downtown.
Good comment. I also want to add, some of you need to get with our town managers. I call him the AI genius, he's not listening to me, but he uses his phone and a photograph and can do a facade upgrade on these phones that is spectacular. I'm talking about you, sir. I'm telling about the talent. And think about the hundreds of thousands of dollars that could save people. And we're working on some plans that maybe would work with just the chamber or other groups downtown that maybe could help us do some of that. So we're making progress on it. I think it's a good thing, and I just want everybody to know that I want to be part of it too.
I think it's a great thing, and I'm curious, if we approve it, then do we go back into our
No,
budget?
so I
Did we already put it in
presented
here?
this at the budget retreat, I
So
just
it's
didn't
already
have
in.
I didn't have this to present
Okay.
for approval at that point, so.
I mean, we're smart enough to give you the money.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Taylor, one other thing, is it only available for buildings inside the CBD district?
Well, it's a little bit bigger than our CBD district, it's our historic downtown, yeah, so there's the map that includes the eligible properties.
I got a couple more things. The money is a pool of money, it's basically the same money we use for facade grants, correct?
Correct, so in the past fiscal year, we had $20,000 set aside in our facade grant line item. And in the next fiscal year, it will be $45,000 to include facade grants and this program.
So the facade grant's not going away.
Correct.
It'll still be the same criteria as it was before.
Yes,
And there's years that go by when the facade grant we don't even use all the money, is that correct?
correct.
And I also just wanna say, I think this is important, particularly for our downtown, because we have the only downtown that's like a real formal downtown with many streets in Wilkes County, and I think that it's it's important we take care of it because it's historical and it's the only one we've got. It'd be very expensive.
Okay,
We good?
for a certain amount of time.
So I'm gonna do my best not to talk too long so we don't run out of more iPhone storage space. Oh, man. Good evening, board. It's good to see you all. Here tonight to talk about a build grant presentation that you guys have had a little bit of time to marinate on. I've sent an email out. You guys have also got in your agenda packet a staff report that kind of goes over the details of the build grant. So we're just going to dive right in to the build grant summary. Build stands for Better Utilizing Investments to Leverage Development. That is your wonderful acronym for the day. It previously existed under Tiger and Ray's grants under previous administrations. Don't ask me to quote what that means because I will not be able to tell you those acronyms. Historically, it's funded surface transportation projects. So you're talking active transportation, you're talking greenways, you're talking sidewalks, things like that, with specific priority to active transportation in previous rounds. And when I mean rounds, I'm talking administration rounds. Previous administrations have shown priority to this. The current administration is showing priority to projects that reduce roadway fatalities, i.e. traffic calming. So just a little bit about this grant. It was established in 2009, so you're looking at 2 more years, it'll be 20 years that it has been funded, and it was originally established under an annual appropriation act, but in 2021 it was authorized to be something that is more like, we don't really envision this grant going away, we just envision it changing colors. So you know, something that has kind of withstood the administration's test of time, just showing difference in priorities. Oops, wrong thing. So the objectives and intent. There's 2 portions of this grant I'm going to focus on, and that's planning and implementation. So the goal is to obtain a planning build grant as a joint application between the 2 towns. The big thing about this grant is that it scores well when we have a joint application between 2 municipalities. That's really, honestly, I would say without that, you're probably better off not going for it. Upon completion of the planning build grants, the idea would be to use those planning documents, which are shovel-ready documents. You're talking construction documents, environmental plans, feasibility studies, signage plans, all those good things, and then go for the implementation side of the build grant as a joint applicant or maybe a separate applicant, you know, obviously supporting our sister town, Wilkesboro. And, okay, there you go. Okay. Continuing on to the objectives and the intent, the estimated scope and deliverables for the planning and build grant. So you guys have a little bit of a breakdown of this in your agenda packet with the staff report and the email I sent earlier. I'm going to briefly go over it, and then I would absolutely welcome feedback on this. So establish construction-ready documents. What I'm telling you is when we get these documents, the idea behind them is they have costs in them, and they have documents that we can then take to a capital improvement grant, and we can, because without that, they're going to say, well, how much it's going to cost? How many linear feet are you doing? What's the feasibility? How does the public feel about it? Things like that. So when we come out of this grant, the idea would be a construction-ready documents with an implementation strategy. And again, who's going to pay for it? Grants, donations, things like that. Obviously, you know, maybe appropriations with our general fund, things like that. But again, we kind of need this in order to go for any kind of implementation of these projects. So the strategic implementation strategy is going to be your Yaqui River Greenway, Historic Downtown Wilkesboro's Phase 2 of their development, North Wilkesboro's Downtown River District Master Plan. Some additional deliverables would be a maintenance, accessibility, and signage plan for the Yaqui River Greenway. So I'm a heavy greenway user. We love our greenways. We also love our parks. I think one thing could use more of is consistency with accessibility, so people know what they're coming into when they come in, if they have accessibility needs. Signage plans, wayfinding is a big thing. Consistency, especially in our greenways, is really important, especially when it comes to emergency services and things like that. And then a maintenance plan, because as much as I'd like to say this, 40 years from now, I probably will not be around, and we want to make sure that this maintenance plan is in place so that future planners and planning directors and staff of the town have something that they can hang their hat on instead of, well, who's in charge of maintaining this? Because you'd be surprised, 2 decades go by and people start forgetting those kind of things. So something that can kind of withstand staffs coming and going. And then the final thing as part of this grant would be to have a project/grants manager procured with the grants funds to assist with the process. That does not mean take this completely and run with it, but provide a little bit of alleviation for staff throughout that process. And that is obviously the intent of the entirety of the grant. There's projects in North Wilkesboro Downtown River District Master Plan to kind of hone in on that would probably score well or score the best. So I don't think we can do the entirety of the plan, but we would pick what we feel like with the grant writers is something that's going to score as well. Obviously, that's the goal. And I think my clicker's died, so you mind next slide for me. Well, I guess it's not. No, it's back. It's back. Okay, some success stories. I'm going to go over them very quickly. Barton County, Kansas got a $239,000 planning project for accessible public transportation master plan. You got Ward County, North Dakota. They got a $4 million planning grant for growth driving intermodal connector. They are, obviously that is, again, back to that kind of active service transportation plan. The city of Homer, Alaska got a grant for $2,050,000. It is also a planning project to plan and design a comprehensive network of non-motorized infrastructure. The city of Mena, Arkansas got a planning project to create an active transportation master street and ADA transition plan. So what you can see is kind of the common theme behind a lot of these grant recipients is that it is, it's a plan to kind of hopefully move it into the next phase, right? None of these in the planning stage you're going to see shovels in the ground. Okay, now we're going to go over some pros, but before I do that, I'm going to pull up something because I believe in your initial staff report, I did give you kind of a rough estimate on what we're shooting for from a total grant amount. Give me 1 second, I'm going to pull that up. Because I don't think I've included that on the slide, unfortunately. Okay. Bear with me. Okay, so the idea behind that is to shoot for something, in the recipient. Right now, we roughly have $2 million dedicated for the Active River Greenway system-wide feasibility study that I talked about, ADA accessibility, signage, stuff like that, maintenance plan. $850,000 dedicated towards the historic downtown Wilkesboro engineering and design and construction documents. $2 million for the North Wilkesboro Downtown River District engineering and design construction. We have also got a very big scope of work that we have compared to the downtown in Wilkesboro. And then $500,000 for a project manager. This is a very big political competitive grant, so we're going to need someone because this is a multi-year grant. And then $550,000 for maintenance, accessibility, and signage plan. So if you total all that up, you're looking at about almost $6 million. So we're well within that range of what we're going to shoot for the moon and see where we land. I do expect some of these numbers to be altered and shifted and stuff, but that kind of gives you a good idea of the breakdown of where we're heading. So the pros to applying for this grant: it's a multi-town collaboration. There's no secret that I used to work for Wilkesboro. I work great with Wilkesboro. I think they've got some great things going. We've worked really well together with the Outdoor Economy Group. I think there's pros to continuing to work with both towns. When both towns succeed, the Wilkes County succeeds. So I think that's kind of a given. The great thing about this is you come out with shovel-ready planning documents for some of the downtown river district projects. We don't have those currently. We have a wonderful plan that you, as the board, had the forethought and wherewithal to go forward with that plan. Now we're ready to move forward with some of the next steps. Greenway expansion, feasibility, and maintenance plan. These are, and I can't really harbor enough how important some of these are. A maintenance plan is really important. There is a maintenance plan in place currently, but it's got a lot of dust on the shelf. Expansion of our greenway system, I think, means healthier North Wilkesboro, which is ultimately better. Downtown development in historic downtown Wilkesboro. Again, if we can become a destination of both towns, we ultimately benefit businesses and the residents of both towns. And then the number one I'm going to hang my hat on is there's no grant match required. So, we're going for upwards of $5 million. There is no grant match required for this grant. And there's no grant match required for the capital grants because and you can go up to $25 million on the capital grant. We are a rural town and we fall under those rural standards, so there is no match. Again, I don't know of a grant that gives you $25 million that doesn't have a match. So again, those are some pros to hang your hat on. Some cons. This will likely have to submit for this grant 2+ times. I'm gonna give you the grant cost in just a second, but what I do wanna hit home is that we do expect the resubmission costs to be cheaper than the initial cost of the submission. However, I think it's really important and reasonable that we look at this being something we submit 2+ times, because I don't wanna come back a year later and say we didn't get it, and then there not really be interest in resubmitting it, because I do think that we need to work towards it if we're gonna commit to it. The 2+ times submission, again, it's a political and highly competitive grant. So it's a federal grant, so it's nationwide. You're competing with other people. We did that similar with our Brownfields grant. We were the only one in North Carolina to get the grant, so I think that's something to be proud of, but it is something that's political. Planning staff capacity, with this grant, with the EPA grant and our daily duties, we'd be at capacity to pursue grant through the grant process as well as the grant submission process. It's just nature of Forrest, Kurt, and I do our best to do it all, but we can only do so much. So that will tie us up through the grant process to pursue other grants. Administration changes could benefit or be a detriment to future submissions. I wish I had a crystal ball, but 2 years from now we've got a new wonderful new election, so that could change their priorities. Could be a pro, could be a con. I'm not going to commit to either one because I've been wrong before and I'll probably be wrong again. So, I think that's obviously something to think about. And then the grant may not score well under this current administration. Our goal is to work with a grant writer who has a lot of experience with federal grants, and they're going to tell us, okay, hey guys, I think under this current thing, we're going to try to curtail this to best meet what the grant wants. Ultimately, administrations change, and that could change. The grant submission date, and the reason why we're coming to you today, is February 27th. And while that seems a long way away, this is probably one of the hardest grants we will do. So we need time to plan. So I want to have the wherewithal to come to you guys and seek requests, because this is going to come, we're going to be hitting ground running if we get approval from this. We would likely not find out until July or June of 2027, so you're looking into the new fiscal year of next year. If we didn't get it, the goal would be to come back and request for money in either this upcoming fiscal year, or depending on when we find out, it could be the next fiscal year. As of May, as you can see in your grant packet, and I kind of touched in this to kind of give a broad overview, but I have gone into more detail in your staff report. We've got 2 grant partners that have put together proposals that you'll find in your grant staff report, the Ferguson Group and Innovative Funding Partners. They have given a price. The good news is Wilkes Outdoor Economy Work Group has agreed to cost share a third of the price, and Wilkesboro has agreed, as of their May meeting, to pursue this grant not to exceed $12,000 from their entity. So I think what we're asking from you tonight is, if you choose to go with this grant, I will need a motion to not exceed $12,000 from our entity, from the grant services. So ultimately, in total, that would be $36,000. We would not be going over that amount, but want to make sure we have enough to be able to pursue those grant writing services for a grant this size. I've included those submissions in your packet, and with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to you guys. I know this is a decent amount of information, and I'm here to answer any questions.
I want to point out a couple of things, if I may. When you talk about shovel-ready projects, they can be big or small. And recently, we've been notified of crosswalk improvements in the town that is coming from the DOT that's going to help improve our traffic patterns and so forth. That's not going to cost us anything, but this could help in the development of that. The River District is most likely to expand with opportunities soon, and hopefully will include some areas around Memorial Park and the Block 46. I think we need to come up with a better name than the Block 46, by the way. And then traffic calming is something that this possible expansion, we've been working on some things to redirect traffic, redirect heavy truck traffic off of Main Street, so that could possibly play into that. And then the last thing, Joseph, I would like to applaud you for 2 things. Your leadership in grant writing proposals that we've gone after lately for Memorial Park and different greenway projects, and so you've been a real team leader in that, so thank you. And if we hurry, we'll still make your wife happy by getting you to her birthday.
I appreciate that. I will say that To give you a brief breakdown of what that timeline looks like, submission in February, she's gonna be happy to say that. Submission in February, notification sometime in summer, early fall of 2027, and you're looking at probably running this 5 years, 4 to 5 years. So you're looking at 5+ years for this planning grant.
Essentially, you're talking about 12,500.
Yeah.
This.
We're gonna say 12,000 from this end.
And then if we have to reapply, it would be less than that.
Yeah, I don't
We
recommend.
don't have guarantees, but
Well,
maybe.
Yeah, but, yeah.
We don't want to assume to do with
So, I'm open to, yeah, any questions you have. I just wanna kind of break down what that's gonna look like from a timeline standpoint, capacity, and then cost.
Like you just said, and, repeat that, it's very rare to get an opportunity of a grant of this size and magnitude that doesn't require a 50% match, or at least anywhere from 5 to 50% match. So, to me, if you're looking at going after, it's the pain versus the gain, and to me, $12,500 investment to potentially drop kick into the stratosphere at the starting point for growth in the two towns together. I don't see how you turn it down personally.
And Wilkesboro's cooperation with Wilkesboro goes far beyond the planning and zoning. It started there, but, we're moving towards all hands on deck with that, so I'll say that as well.
Do you wanna clear it's 12,000, so when we make a motion?
12,000.
Not 12,500, yeah. I know that's a technicality, but I don't wanna sign Wilkesboro up for another $500. Giving them the opportunity.
I've got a few questions.
Yes, sir.
I've got a few questions. So when you say they'll put the planning department at capacity, what does that mean?
So I've got an EPA brownfields grant that's currently in the works. You know, I expect an RFQ to go out soon. You know, I think you are well aware of all that we do. I know from the planning side of things, Forrest and I spend a significant amount of time obviously helping the public. I'll be at capacity when it comes to 2 grants.
Are we gonna have to hire another planning person to?
I don't think so. I just think that for grants for the next couple of years, this would tie us up.
Somewhat just for grants, not other things.
Yeah, I mean, because I feel like it's my duty, you know, obviously we have other things to do in the planning department outside of grants, and I wanna make sure it's clear that, you know, I don't want there to be a lapse in helping the public with other things, so that's where that capacity comes in.
And I've got a variety of questions here that are not in any particular order, but I'm gonna just kind of run down.
Yeah.
What do you think our chances of getting are?
So I think that goes back to the 2+ times, you know, we can play a game of where the administration is gonna be 2 years from now, we will have a new president. I mean, that's the reality of it. So, you know, that could change things. If we're on our second submission and a new president comes in board and we have to maybe curtail where that grant goes. I mean, I can't see through a crystal ball, but I know one thing, we will have a new president. I mean, and they hire, I'm gonna butcher the department, but they are in charge of the head of transportation over the federal government. So ultimately, yes, the transportation could change. You know, under the Biden administration, from what I know, because I know quite a bit about the race grants, because we've been talking about this for a while, it was very much active transportation heavy. That was one of the goals. What can we do to reduce environmental pollution caused by motor vehicles? That is not the case with the new administration. However, they kind of still go back to that active transportation, but it could change with the new administration. So yeah, I think we have a project that bodes well for submission. I just can't tell you how many times it's going to take to go forward. We have just been told by both grant writers that to likely expect 2+ submissions.
You said that it's political. Is there anything we can do politically to try to help make it increase our chances?
Without confirming with our attorney, I'm going to say that yes, it's a political grant. I'm not sure how much the town can contribute to that, but yes, we do have senators and representatives that, as long as it's okay with the grant, I'm going to preface that. I don't want to do anything that's going to put the town in liability, but as long as we, you know, if that's something that's okay with the grant, again, I would defer to them to be the ones. I don't want to even use the word lobby, but
I was gonna say, what about the lobbyist group?
so they're one of the people who actually had a lobbying firm. Without seeing the nature of the federal grant, I know lobbying for an EPA grant was a strict hard no. I don't think that's the case with this, but I don't want to commit to something that's going to put us in.
And what all does this lock us into? Like, if we had somebody, a developer, come that wanted to do something at Block 46, is any of this gonna hold up any of that?
I don't think it's gonna hold it up. I think it could show what we have plans as far as visions. You know, of course, if we're using private property, we'd have to get somebody to buy onto that, right? So I think we're gonna start with some of our public property that we own. That would be priority number one, because, you know, obviously we have control of that. But then, yes, there could end up being a partnership where we have easements or something to be able to build some of this
So
stuff.
if somebody approaches us while we're applying for this is not gonna affect that.
No, because I think, I don't completely commit to it. I think this gives us the ability to have a planning document. I still go back to, we're probably gonna stick with a lot of public stuff, because without, you know, we don't wanna be a cog to development, right? We wanna work
Has
with them.
Wilkesboro already passed this at a meeting?
Yeah, at their May meeting, they did agree to pursue the grants not to exceed 12,000 from their entity.
I've got one more question. Can we get reimbursed through this for our downtown comprehensive plan we paid for?
I don't think we can get reimbursed, but what I will say is that
Hiring as part of that grant that's already in place, we will be hiring a brownfield grant manager, is that right?
correct. So the grants manager is we have a little bit of a switch in things to actually save us a little bit of money, and it'll save us time in the long run, so we don't have to go through different RFQs processes. We're gonna combine the grants manager with a qualified environmental professional. That way we save a little bit of money and time, but yes, there would be a grants manager. That person doesn't necessarily do everything. They are making sure you're in line with all these wonderful bureaucratic federal regulations.
But that will help lessen the workload just a little bit.
Yes, yeah, the intention is to try to at least make sure we're staying on top in things. It still requires staff to be pretty involved.
And I guess my last question is kind of an overall question, but you feel like that you can do this grant and just other priorities the town has that we may need you for that could be also important to us that are like a bird in hand, you can still cover that?
I think but yeah, I think the goal would be to maintain capacity. You know, I wanna make sure we're serving North Wilkesboro. I don't want this to become a problem for North Wilkesboro. It's supposed to be a help.
Well,
I think just that grant, from the grant standpoint, it would tie us up grant.
Okay. I'm good.
Any other discussion? I would entertain a motion to accept or deny this grant application. Grant,
How do you need that
it's
motion?
not an application.
All I need is a motion to accept pursuing that grant at a fee of not more than 12,000.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve pursuing the build grant for the town of North Wilkesboro not to exceed $12,000 expenditure.